You can take your pick. All right. We will continue our media availabilities this morning with.
So I'm not the first?
You are not.
Wow.
Alex Bowman was in here about 15 minutes ago. He
Damn
warmed up the
kids.
seat for you.
Perfect.
Driver, let's see, Jimmie Johnson, driver of the 48 Lowe's Chevrolet to kick us off again here. We will open for questions. If you have one, please state your name and affiliation. And we're going to start with Kelly.
Kelly CrandallRacer.com. Jimmie, two things. First, Indianapolis being a crown jewel race, does that lessen any now that it's the cutoff race to the playoffs?
Lesson? No, it just heightens, in my opinion. I can see many scenarios where people will throw caution to the wind. If you're in, you can be more aggressive. If you're out, you can be more aggressive. It's a crown jewel, so you're aggressive to start with. So I see it being more intense than the previous date and time of the year that it's been in.
And the second thing is, can you just speak to, with Casey's retirement that he announced a couple weeks ago, having been a former teammate of his and worked with him, Casey as a competitor, what do you think maybe his legacy or what he leaves behind as a competitor?
Yeah, I've been able to have some great battles with him over the years. When he was at Everingham, I know he made me a better driver. My strong tracks were also his strong tracks. Charlotte's the first one that comes to mind, and we had some awesome duels. And along my journey of becoming a multi-time champion, he's one of the guys along the way that's helped me dig deeper and find more within myself. He's been a great friend, and it's sad to hear that he won't be here this weekend. I actually spoke to him yesterday. So on top of the retirement piece, then to have his dehydration situation going on right now, certainly just want the best for him. It's great to see him as a father. But the friendship side, that piece is probably what I will hold on to the most. But along the way, he did make me dig deeper than I've dug before and make me stronger.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Who's more worried about potentially not having any practice in racing, you or Chad?
From our standpoint, I think we're both pretty good with it. Just our journey over the last, this year, we usually end up back to our setup that we unloaded with. So if we are forced to start with the setup we've unloaded with, I think we'll be in great shape. Save from frustration along the way. It will save some frustration along the way. And no qualifying? I mean, hell, this is great.
Zach at Tanzarete, KickingTires.net. You said you had a lot of battles with Casey over the years. One of them was here last year when you guys had that big three-wide battle. One of the more memorable moments in this event's history. Can you kind of remember what that restart was like and what those moves were like when it came to you, Casey, and Brad?
Yeah, I do. I was able to get in position off of turn 2. Casey and Brad, running side by side through any of these turns kind of slows you down, and they're racing real hard, and it gave me a chance to pick up some momentum, pull to the inside down into down the long straightaway, back straightaway into turn 3. And I remember looking up in the mirror and thinking, "What? Who's smoking? It must be me." And I couldn't really smell it in the car or see it in the car. It took me seeing it in the mirror to know if something was going on. And I had a very long conversation with myself. It felt like just wondering if it was going to affect my corner. Like, where's the oil coming from? Where's it dropping? Where's it falling? And as soon as I let off the gas into turn 3, I was sideways. And I remember hoping that I didn't take out Casey in the process. I mean, you don't want to take anybody out, but for Hendrick Motorsports, such a big win here, such a big win for himself. I knew I was crashing. I knew there was no saving it, and I just didn't want to take him out with me.
And about Casey's heat exhaustion, you've had some sort of issues in the past, not to his extent, but does it kind of surprise you when you see someone of his experience have an issue like that, or is it just how these cars are that it's maybe possibly getting tougher as the years go on?
Yeah, I mean, everybody reacts differently to heat. And for me, fortunately, the cramping starts in first. And then the one moment I had in Richmond, I actually ended up passing out as a result, I guess from the pain of the cramping or something. My body just shut down. So it's something I've worked very hard on, and I found that I've got to keep evolving as I get older. What I eat, what I drink, it just continues to change, and I assume that's something similar he's going through. But I really applaud him to stand back and say, look, I need to make sure I know what's going on before I go any further. So bummed not to see him here, and at the same time, I think he made the right decision in sitting down this weekend.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport. Jimmy, how much would a win here inject a boost into what has been an otherwise difficult season for you?
I couldn't even put into words what it would mean and do. We have worked so hard and have had some good moments along the way that could have turned into great moments, and mistakes on my behalf, team, whatever it might be, bad luck, misfortune. We've just not been able to capitalize on opportunities that have been there. Plus, we've had a tough year, so it's been extremely frustrating, extremely difficult to live through. But we are all still very eager to turn it around and know that we will. And a win is the way to turn it around. So we've seen this team get hot at times, and we've been unstoppable. And a win would be the starting point of that. So I'm very hopeful we can get that done this weekend.
Tyler Burnett, Motor Racing Network. Sorry, back over here. Hi. How important is a good run at Vegas, knowing the uncertainty of racing at the Roval in the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, it is. My first reaction is, that the fact that you can win in advance is just top of mind for everybody. The Roval, you've probably, at least before we go there and see how it unfolds, you have to put it in the Talladega box. So absolutely, points are important, but the guy that wins is going to breathe a huge sigh of relief, as they do in the, I guess, second or third round, whenever Talladega's in there. Third round, I guess.
Holly Kane, the NASCAR Wire Service. Kind of along what Bruce was asking you, to have 4 victories here, I mean, do you feel any more confident about coming here to race and having that maybe inject a little something into the season? And why do you feel like you've been so good at Indianapolis? A lot of people would tell you it's one of the toughest places there is to race, and yet you've had so much success.
Yeah, it is a very difficult track, and it took me quite a few years to get the right rhythm and figure it out. So it is a very unique track, like Dover, like Martinsville. Some of those more challenging and unique tracks I've just always taken to and have had good luck at and success at. So Indy now fits in that category. And a lot like Martinsville, my first few trips there's no way I thought I would win. And then once I got it, they started to come. So this could be a very big turnaround race for us. I definitely believe that and feel it. We qualified well here last year. We raced well here. Had a shot to win if it wasn't for the oil leak. I think the 78 and 18 were the class of the field, and we were in that next group. So if we do our part, I think we can have a shot at the end.
Jeff McConey, Purdue University, Wiley Radio. So I imagine Chad is a bit in over his head with moving this race to September versus running it in July, where the track is hot and slick. So what are you expecting as a driver now that you're going to be racing on a track that is completely different now that we're 2 months later into the season?
Yeah, temperature really just makes the track less or more forgiving, depending on which way the temperature is moving. And it's so less forgiving when we're here in July, and it feels like 150 degrees out ambient temperature, and it's just this front stretch is just so hot and radiates so much heat. But when I look at our practice sessions that are usually in the morning when we're here in July, cars drive better. It's easier to tune them. The morning qualifying sessions, cars drive a lot better. So I feel that same trend will happen, and hopefully it'll allow us to race harder with one another since the cars are driving better. If we do just race without any practice, I think one big obstacle the whole field will have to overcome is just tire wear. This track is until it rubbers in, it's notorious for high tire wear. So I'm sure NASCAR's thinking about all of that, and I would assume we would have some competition, at least one. And I would probably lobby for 2 competition cautions pretty quick, just to get some rubber down and in the track, so that we just don't have any issues. But usually that first practice session, you can't run more than 5 laps, and once Cup goes through, then Xfinity, and then we get back to a Cup practice, we can do a 20, 25 lap run, no problem. So it's just that opening stint or two, I think we'll need to be careful for.
Kurt Darling, WIBC. Jimmie, you spoke on the intensity of this race being the last one of the regular season, being more intense for you guys, but what about the fans? Because attendance has been kind of becoming more of a problem over the last few years. Do you think that intensity will kind of rejuvenate the race to get more people to come out and watch?
Yeah, I definitely hope so. You know, the track has gone through great efforts to create a lot of fun things, and from a dirt track to the different bands that they've been bringing through, and a huge lineup for this weekend. So, you know, sadly, we make the move, the effort from the track, all that's going on, and then Mother Nature's like, nope, not yet, not so much. So, you know, the weather will have an impact on things, and I'm sad for our sport for that, and for the track. But I think our racing has been phenomenal all year long. I think that tracks are working harder than ever to create the best fan experience they can at an affordable price. So I don't know why it hasn't turned harder and why more people aren't in the stands at some tracks. Some tracks, the stands are full and it looks great, some not so much. So I don't know what the magic bullet is or silver bullet. I'm not sure there is one. But if we keep staying the course, putting on great shows, the tracks keep working hard for fan value and experience, it'll all come back.
Just curious how much you've missed Ron Mallett this year, being your car chief, when it comes to execution and little things.
He did such an awesome job of training Jesse that I can't see and it's a true credit to Ron. It's a different face, and those that know Ron know he walks very, very fast, and so Jesse's a slower walking individual. But Ron has done such a phenomenal job of training him and transitioning into the shop, and the overall effect that he's had on the company. I haven't had any, other than seeing his face and telling stories, and I guess that's what old people do, tell stories about what you did when you're young. Those things I miss just because it's Ron and his personality, and we have so much time together. But on a performance side, he once again did his job and has Jesse completely ready for it.
And on the rumors that Lowe's might come back on a limited basis next year.
Are there?
I'm just there's rumors out there that Lowe's might come back on a limited basis next year with you. Is there been any discussions along those lines?
I know we've talked to many, many companies. I personally haven't spoken to anyone on that front, and if that were to happen or is true, I would love to see that continue on. But I have not been involved in any of those conversations. Yep.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Well, one of the great things about this series is that there's another race the next week. Last week, it just seemed like it was one thing after another that beat you guys down. So, one, what happened? How do you learn from it? Or two, because it's another race the next week, do you just simply forget about it? Because it seemed a little disconcerting this late, this close to the playoffs.
Yeah, it was. There's plenty to learn, and first and foremost, I look at myself and the excitement of having a good first round of qualifying, and the frustration of having a bad first attempt in the second round, led to me running wide on turn 4, and there's the first mistake, get us behind the ball, and we got to start last. So I can learn a lot from that for sure. Then we get going in the race, work our way up into the top 15. Unfortunately, a loose wheel, those things happen. It's part of it. So mistake there. Then I compound the mistake by missing pit road. So, there we go again. Then, out on the track, trying to get back from being 3 laps down is just very, very difficult to do. So we're doing our best, and for our playoff hopes, Alex found himself in a similar situation with his flat tire. So that's really the bogey that we need to focus on. And we were running right there with him, kind of going through our motions and minimizing damage. And then the oil pump situation that happened, I think we learned a lot from that to make sure that it doesn't happen to our cars again in the future, especially at that track. So there are plenty of takeaways, plenty of things that we learned. You know, kind of the overarching thing for me is compounding mistakes. I mean, people make mistakes, but let's not make a bad situation worse. And sadly, we were kind of in a position that we weren't going to finish that race with the oil pump scenario. So that does take a little bit off of it, but we just need to stop making mistakes. And I think I was in a position and drove outside of my means and drove over the 100% level because I knew I had such a good car. And I'm so eager to get back to winning and get back to leading laps that I just tried too hard, and in qualifying made a mistake, and then coming to pit road. Sure, I didn't have winning on my mind at the time, but I just came around the corner too aggressively. I feel like I was maybe too aggressive all weekend, and came around the corner too aggressively and missed pit road by a couple feet.
I guess for somebody, and I know you're talking about this, but for somebody who's experienced and done as much, how does that happen? I mean, I guess I can't comprehend it.
Sure.
How do you allow, or how do you put yourself in that situation of being over-aggressive based off your experience and knowledge, or just the situation?
We're all human, you know, and I've made mistakes even when I've been at my peak. I've, you know, made a mistake, and then I've also made compounding mistakes. So it's all part of it. But as you all know, and we all know each other pretty well, and then could imagine just the frustration of not being where I want to be, and maybe relating it back to your own things in life. Like when something's not going right, you just try harder and harder. I mean, we're all human, and it's just part of it. So I just need to stop doing that. Easier said than done, but it's what needs to happen. Yep.
Jimmy, Eric Smith, Race View Online. You're speaking of sponsorship. How difficult this day and age is it to find sponsorship in 2018 compared to about a decade ago? And how important is having the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the schedule in terms of securing future sponsorships? Is that a race that's still a big one that companies want to put their name on a car like it used to be? And is it your 4 wins, does that kind of help that process a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, it all depends the lens that you're looking through. And you know, just a few things that I look at is, you know, this is a crown jewel race. And from the competition side, you know, the place I live, I mean, Indy's been circled since we left Indy last year. You know, like this is one of the big ones. Some would argue, if you're Tony Stewart, it is the biggest one. So I grew up as a kid watching the Indy 500 and didn't know much about NASCAR at all. So this one's really, really important to me too, although I'm in a car with fenders. You know, and then I look at the sponsorship landscape, and at Hendrick we've renewed 14 sponsors this year. So, you know, again, it depends on the lens you're looking through. We have a great product to offer at Hendrick Motorsports. Sure, things are changing in their value, and there's negotiations that take place. The sport's maybe taking a reset of sorts, but I feel the resets happen, and I see an uptick in some markets in some areas. We've seen plenty of new companies interested in being involved with Hendrick Motorsports or with the 48 car. So, you know, it's the lens you're looking through, and I have an optimistic view on it, honestly.
Yeah, Jimmy, going back to your confidence that this race could be a turnaround for you guys this weekend, where does that come from? And the second thing you talked about this year, you know, pushing and making mistakes and being aggressive. Is this season kind of the first you really have been in that position where you've caught yourself doing that over and over?
No, I've been here before, and in fact, I've been in my Busch Series days were probably the toughest that I've ever been through. And it's not been to that level, although it's pretty close, but it's second to it. And you know, my optimism to turn things around is because I'll never give up. I mean, I just won't. There's a lot of reasons for that. First and foremost is me and who I am. Secondly, I drive at Hendrick Motorsports. You know, we will figure it out. It might not come at the pace we want it to, but we will figure it out. So, you know, I show up. I have to show up every week and have a clear mind and start on a clean sheet of paper. I think carrying anything is bad, and I have carried stuff from track to track. It's not been beneficial. So the best thing I can do for for my team is to show up as if I'm in the middle of that 5 championship stretch and have that swagger and show up ready to roll. And that's one of my responsibilities to do each week. So I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Jimmie, thanks for your time. Thanks for
All right,
spending
thank you,
a
everybody.
few extra minutes with us this morning, and also we wish you the best of luck this weekend. Just a quick announcement as well. I know that Denny Hamlin was scheduled to